Mr. Harris here, and welcome to a new video. In this video, we're going to tackle some more questions related to mole calculations. Now, in this particular video, I want to share these type of past paper questions or those that you might find in your DSC where they're asking you 1 mole of something contains, and they're going to ask you how many moles of ions are there, how many moles of atoms, molecules, so on and so forth. So let's see how can we do this. Now, first up, you'll be always given a compound. Just like here, you're given that you have 1 mole of calcium carbonate. So I want you to follow these 3 steps. So do 3 steps. First off is, can you help me find the chemical formula for this? So calcium carbonate, you actually learned this in book 1A, what a calcium carbonate is, but I still want you to follow these steps. So first off, obviously you would need to know what's the charge on each of these ions. Calcium is in group 2, so we know it has a 2 plus charge. And carbonate, you learned this in book 1B, Microscopic World 1, where I told you need to memorize some of the more typical or common ions. And carbonate ion, even though it's a polyatomic ion, I still need you to memorize this. So you should know this is CO3 with a 2 negative charge. And then to find its chemical formula, remember, you do the cross method, bring the 2 numbers to the opposite side, write back the original atom here in blue, like calcium, and then write the number that was there, 2 from the carbonate ion, and so for carbonate here, it's going to be 2 as well. But don't forget, you need to add back the bracket, because or else it'll be 32. And then remember to simplify it. When they're the same number, we can simplify it further. So actually, let me just write down, it's going to be CaCO3, the calcium carbonate. Okay, so this was step 1, to obviously first know what charges do the ions have. Step 2 was to write down its chemical formula. And step 3, this is the most important step actually. I want you to tell me how many ions are there in this chemical formula. What do we mean by that? Look here. Calcium ion. How many calcium ions do I have? Obviously, for that, you'll need to see if there's any number here. There's obviously no number here. So actually, I just have 1 calcium ion here. All right, let's think of it in that way. How about here on the other side? Let me use different color. On the other side here, carbonate ion. Do I have any number here? No, obviously I don't have any number here, right? So I just have 1 carbonate ion here also. And remember, this 3 is for oxygen atom. It's not related that there are 3 COs. No, it's CO3. So now that I've got these 3 steps sorted, now let's do the question. Option A, 1 mole of calcium carbonate contains 1 mole of cations. Now, remember, here they're asking us 1 mole of cations. And how can we find the number of moles of cations? We always had to start off with our original compound. You can go back to the previous videos. I would always start off with whatever the number of moles of the original compound was. So here I have 1. So I'm going to use the same color, so pinkish. So 1 times, and what's the number of mole of cations I have? So look here. I remember I said I only have 1 cation here. So 1. I only have 1. So now let's see what the answer for this is. It's obviously I have 1 mole of cation. And remember, what are cations? Cations are the positive ions. So this is actually, right off the bat, actually, our answer is A. Cations are positive ions. Let's look at B anyway. Let's look at B. So B, again, I'll start off with my original 1 mole of the whole compound, but this time how many anions? Anions are the negative ions. And remember I told you, like, this mentioned onions. Onions make you cry. It's kind of negative. That's how you remember that it's an anion. So here, look here. I also said there's just 1 carbonate ion here, right? So you times it by 1. So actually, I just have 1 mole of anion as well. So actually, this should be 1 mole. And look at C. Obviously, we just found that it should be 1 mole. So C is also wrong. And cations, we also just found that it's supposed to be 1 mole. So this is how we're going to tackle all of these questions. All right, so let's use this 3-step method and let's do here, question 2. 1 mole of sodium oxide contains. Now, do the same thing. Grab the compound that you see here, sodium oxide. Sodium, we know sodium is in group 1, so it has a 1 plus charge. Oxide, on the other hand, which is obviously oxygen, it's in group 6, So the charge should be, remember from group 6, it's going the opposite way, so it's a 2 negative charge. And then you do the same cross method thing. So bring the number here, that's number 1, this is number 2, bring it to the other side, and then write back down the original atom, which is Na, and then take the other number from the opposite side. And for oxygen, remember, there's just the 1 here, the char, but we're not going to write the 1. So actually here now, my chemical formula is Na2O. Now this is the second step, this is the first step. Now let's do the third step. Third step is to tell me how many ions are there. So here, sodium ions, you can see there's a 2 here, right? That means, what does this actually mean? It means that I have 2 sodium ions. So 1, 2. That's what it means. I have 2 sodium ions. And on the other hand, how many oxygen or oxide ions do I have? Over here I have, I'll just write it, that I have just one oxygen ion, oxide ion I should say. So there, I have 2 sodium ions and 1 oxide ion. So these, see now, it's a bit different from the original one that you had. So here, that's why I said please follow this 3-step process so you don't get confused about it. All right, now let's see. Option A, 1 mole of sodium oxide contains 1 mole of ions. So let's see. So let's write it down. So option A. So remember, we would always start off with our original compound. So 1 times, and look, how many ions do I have? Look, I have 1 sodium ion, 2 sodium ion, and 3. I have the oxide ions. So it should be 1 times 3. Okay, so the answer should actually be, I have 3 mole of ions, 3 moles of ions. So option A is incorrect. All right, now let's look at option B. Option B, it says it contains 2 moles of cations. Cations are positive ions. So remember, always start off with the original number of moles, which is 1. And do I actually have 2 cations? Yep, remember? Now we have 2 cations. I have 1, 2, 2 sodium ions. And there you go, actually. The answer for this is actually 2 moles of cations, which is true. But let's still do C and D. For C here, I have 2 moles of anions. Now, is that true? 1 times, now here, obviously, I just have 1 oxide ion. Let me use the purple color. I have 1 mole. Sorry, I just have 1 oxide ion. So 1 times 1, which is equal to 1 mole of anion. There you go. I have 1 mole of anion. So this is wrong. I should have 1 mole. And this was how many? Yeah, 3 moles. And finally, I have 3 moles of atoms. Now look, are these even atoms to begin with? These are not atoms, guys. These are ions. Okay, so that's why actually the number of moles is correct. I do have 3 moles, but it should be not atoms, but it should be ions here. Ions. Okay? So for this question, the answer is B. Now, let's do some more. All right, here. I have 1 mole of magnesium nitrate. So quickly, let's do the same thing again. So let's grab magnesium. Magnesium, it is in group 2. So it's Mg2 plus. Nitride, notice this is nitride, it's not nitrate. A lot of you will immediately write NO3 minus. No, this is nitride, talking about nitrogen ion. So nitrogen, we know it's in group 3. So what color was I using? All right, so I'll use back that color. Nitrogen is in group 3. So now do the cross method again. So do the cross method again. Here I have Mg3, and for nitrogen it would be N2. Right, Mg3N2. And then now let's see, how many ions do I have for each one of them? So magnesium here, do you see there's a number 3? That means I have 3 magnesium ions. So I'll write it for you. So Mg2 plus, imagine there are 3 of them here. And on the other hand, for nitrogen, I have, do you see there's a 2 here? So that means I have 2 nitrite ions, 2 of them. Oh, I think I used purple before, so I'll just continue using purple. Okay, so we're going to do the same step now. 1 mole of magnesium nitrate contains 1 mole of molecules. Is that true? So first off, now to give you a hint, I won't do the calculation for this because it's a waste of time. Now, why is it a waste of time? Because molecules, generally speaking, we use it for covalent compounds. All right, we use it mainly for covalent compounds. Magnesium nitrate here, obviously I know that this is not a covalent compound, this is an ionic compound. So usually you will see the word formula units, and maybe later on you'll learn more about formula mass if you're a Form 4 student, but yeah, so that's why A is wrong. Anyway, let's look at B. For option B here, it says 1 mole of magnesium nitrate contains 2 moles of cations. Cations are positive ions, remember that? So here, I'm going to take, remember, always start off with my original compound. I have 1 times, now how many cations do I have here? So maybe I'll highlight it for you. I have 1, 2, 3. So I need to times it by 3. So actually, my answer is I have 3 moles of cations, not 2 moles. So option B is wrong. Now let me try C. It says 2 moles of anions, so let's go ahead and do it. So 1 times 1 is my original 1 mole of magnesium nitrate, the original compound, and times it by how many anions do I have here? 1, 2. So 1 times 2. Yes, indeed, for this, it is 2 moles of anions. So answer for this is C. And the last one, why is the last one wrong? Obviously, I told you, and it's the same as the previous question, these are not atoms. They're not atoms. These are ions. All right. So actually, are there 5 moles of ions? Yes, actually, there are 5 moles of ions. Because you can see it's going to be, if the question was, if the answer was 5 moles of ions, it's going to be 1 times, and then you can count here. There's 1, 2, 3, 3 plus 2 here. 3 positive ions plus 2 negative ions. I do indeed have 5. Okay. So I would have written 5 moles of ions. But right now, it's not talking about ions, it's talking about atoms, hence why it's wrong. But usually, this is how they would trick you into writing atoms or ions. Okay? I believe we have one more. Yep. Now, this time, the original question does not have 1 mole. This time, it has 3 moles. But we're still going to do the same step, this 3-step process. So first figure out what the charges are here. So obviously I have iron 3, so that's already helping us big time. They're telling us the charge is 3 plus. Sulfate ion, it's a polyatomic ion, which you should know it's SO4 2 minus. And then do the cross method. Bring the 3 to the other side, this 2 to the other side. And you have Fe2 SO4 with a bracket 3. Okay, now what does this mean? It means, now the final step is to tell me how many ions are there. Iron ions, you see there's a 2 here. That means I have 2 Fe3 plus ions. On the other hand, how many sulfate ions do I have? There's a 3 here. That means I have 3 sulfate ions. So SO4 2 minus, SO4 2 minus, SO4 2 minus. There. Now let's tackle the question. Option A. 3 moles of iron 3 sulfate contains 3 moles of molecules. Again, don't waste your time to do this question to like start doing it. You see the word molecules again. Remember, molecules, I told you that's for covalent, mainly for covalent substances, right? Covalent compounds. But here, you can see it's already in, when you see charges, obviously then it's an ionic compound. So here, this is ionic. So let's not waste our time and do A. So also do it in this way. And B, let's do B now. Option B. It says 3 moles of iron 3 sulfate contains 6 moles of cations. So remember now, we are the original compound, there are 3 moles. So start off with a 3 and times it by how many cations do I have here? So cations. Remember, cations are positive. So here, 1, 2, I have 2 cations. So 3 times 2. And actually, immediately you should get that you have, the answer is 6 moles of cations. Answer is B. But let's still do C. C here, it should be 3 times, how many anions do I have this time? Now here, this time I have 3 anions. So you see 1, 2, 3. 3 times 3, the answer is 9. So it should be 9 moles of anions. And the last one, why is it wrong? Again, you see the word atoms. These are not atoms, these are ions here. But is it correct? Is it 9 moles of ions actually? No, it's going to be, I'll just write it for you here. It's not going to be that. It's 3 times, let's see, how many ions do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 times 5, which is 15 moles of ions. All right, so this is how you incorporate what you have learned in the previous videos into these MC questions. Okay, so I'll wrap up the video here, then I'll see you in the next one. Bye.